Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 164 of the Seezus Show. We are back with another fun-filled week of the latest and hottest topics within the NFL and NBA. And just to rehash on last week's episode, which was 163, it was Carl Conyers and myself. We basically talked about our week 10 takeaways, our week 11 predictions, fantasy waivers, players of the week, Cade and the Pistons emergence, Travis Hunter's injury, the weird all-star format, De'Aaron Fox returning, and much, much more. So I hope you guys enjoyed that episode, and make sure to subscribe on all forms of social media at the Season Show. Let's keep this thing going as well, too. But before we get into the hottest topics, like always, gotta make some noise, gotta introduce the legend, the GOAT himself. Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for my boy Carl Conyers.
What's good, everybody? It's difficult right here, but
That's all you, man. How you been, man?
I have been, I'm better than last week. I'll tell you that much. Work
Mm.
is good. We were leading up to something on that happened on Monday, so it's still a lot, but not nearly as bad, and that has been excellent. How about you?
Work has been getting a little busy, so that's been cool. They're not really gonna throw me into the fire for real, till January. That's when it gets crazy. But I'm starting. Basically, they kind of using me as like a Debo Samuel. You know what I'm saying? Like a utility guy. Hey,
Just fit in.
it's been cool. But I think the coolest thing has been like being able to just see like creatives on a daily basis and getting slightly inspired by them, even if it's in like a small aspect. So it's been good, but I just been taking it day by day, man. Like I said, slowly building up the spot. So that's about it, bro.
Feel it. That's good enough. Shit.
Yeah, that's all we can do, right? That's all we can do.
Yep.
All right, well, let's get into it, man. Week 11 just passed of the NFL season. One of these days, like I said, we're going to get 100% on these correct picks. But what were your biggest takeaways for week 11 of the NFL season?
Uh, so for me, this was another pretty good week, I feel like. Better than what was that, those primetime games last week were not it. But for me, the Bears win again. I still don't trust the Bears. I don't know. I mean, I do know what it is. Caleb Williams has not really looked super impressive. Their defense isn't like amazing. I think they have a negative point differential, which, isn't everything, but it's not like they've been blowing teams out. Uh, And yeah, I just until they, I guess honestly it might be one of those I might not trust this team until they do something in the playoffs. But they're winning right now, so I can't take that away from them. I think also like the Panthers. I may have touched on them last week, but this it was crazy because this game, pretty much through their entire like winning streak, I think they might have maybe lost one game in there, but basically through all these wins recently, it had been Rico Dowdle. Like he had been the main one doing all the heavy lifting. Bryce Young had like less than 200 yards in I think most of those games. And then he throws for like 380 something or four. He threw for whatever he threw for was the Panthers franchise record. So that was good to see, honestly, to be able to have the proof of like, oh, you can win games in other ways. Like you can actually pass to win these games. We'll see if that's something that he can do on a consistent basis. Of course, I'm not expecting him to set their franchise record every time, but be able to go over 200 passing yards and Ted McMillan looks really good. Uh, so that's just been cool to see because the Panthers, honestly, since Cam Newton. And honestly, since Cam Newton took them to the Super Bowl, they've just pretty much been not good. Yeah, yeah, and then especially after he left, they were a lot laughing stock for a while. So it's cool to see them kind of be coming back up. I think also for me, like right now, the Rams are the hottest team in the league, I feel like. They, won kind of a defensive battle against the Seahawks. Although, like, it wasn't the most impressive because it was still close, even though Sam Darnold had like four turnovers. But they're still winning, so I'll take that. The next one, I think the Bengals. I'm like, and I know we'll kind of like touch on them a little bit later, but it's getting late early. They don't have really any margin of error at this point. Joe Burrow is supposed to be coming back, not this upcoming week, but the week after that, or maybe he might, because he said he's coming back for Thanksgiving. So I don't know if that's going to be these next games. I think it's going to be the week after. But regardless, it's just like, they have managed to do better now. Of course, they had Flacco, but I think that's also a move they should have made immediately because they knew that the other guy was a Jake Browning. I think was just not going to do anything for their team. So it's looking like another wasted year for them, which is very tough.
And
Sucks,
want to
especially because I think they
pay
just
the goofy ass.
yeah, like they franchise tagged or they signed him to a 1 year deal, Trey Hendrickson, and then also like T. Higgins. It's just going to be weird to see how that all is going to shape out after this. Then also like the Chargers. I don't know what's going on with them, man. They lost 35-6 to the Jags. Justin Herbert had 81 passing yards. I think they had like less than 15 rushing yards total as a team. It was just like really embarrassing. It was a really, really bad loss to an okay team. Like the Jags are they're over 500 this year, but they're not like, amazing. So to get blasted like that and put up like literally no fight was really crazy, and it makes me question them, but not super crazy because honestly, I don't trust them in general. After, last year, Herbert had his best year in terms of limiting turnovers, and then as soon as they got into the playoffs, he threw like 3 picks or something like that. So I really, Justin Herbert's that guy who just has all the talent, but he's never really put it together. So be interesting to see kind of how the rest of the season goes for them. The Bills rebounded really well, so that was nice to see that. And the Ravens also got the win, so Lamar's back. It looks like they're looking a lot better on offense, and they're definitely looking a lot better on defense. So I mean, to me, I feel like they're going to find their way into the playoffs, which is really crazy to think, especially how their season started and dealing with that whole stretch without Lamar. And then lastly, I just think that the Chiefs are kind of on the brink right now and not making the playoffs, which is tough. But also one of those things to me where I think if the Chiefs don't make the playoffs this year, people are going to have a field day trying to tear down Mahomes. And I don't think 1 year should take away from what you did in these previous 5, 6 years, which is something that no one's done. And then also we'll see, what happens if he comes back next year. But that's also assuming he doesn't make it this year. I still think they have a chance, but it's just getting really close.
Hmm. No, that's facts. That's facts. It's looking real scary for them as well, too. Like I said, we got to see the big three in the playoffs. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But my takeaways, some of them kind of overlap with you, but I'll try to not have it overlap in some sense. But kind of like what you said with the Bills, nice bounce back. And I feel like with them, my squad, the Bills only go as far as Josh Allen goes. You know what I'm saying? Even though he had two turnovers, and we kind of talked about this when we were texting and whatnot. He's Superman. He took the suit off and then he willed his team to a win. So in order for them to get as far as they want, even though they got a couple red flags on both ends of the field, plus the injuries, I feel like he has to play damn near a perfect game, and really utilize in being a dual threat quarterback. Early on in his career, he was more of a dual threat with design runs, but I feel like now it's like, okay, we know we don't have the quintessential pieces, so we're just gonna have to load up the clip, you know what I'm saying? So I'm encouraged with what I saw, against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who's a playoff bound team as well, too, Baker Mayfield and everything they got going on with that defense. Um, the receivers kind of got shuffled around. I'm a little upset with Keon Coleman with showing up to your meeting late. Like all you have to do is practice and then meetings, and you have a plethora of free time. So what was he doing? It's not like y'all was traveling to Miami and you went out the night before or some shit. You in Buffalo, ain't really shit to do. So I don't know where his mindset's at, but it's kind of a blessing in disguise that he didn't play because our OG Gabe Davis, who's probably with like the last couple years has been our like top wide receiver playoff performer. So it was good to see him come back from that knee injury because I think he was cut from the Jaguars and didn't have the season he wanted. So nice security blanket. It looks like we may have potentially found a diamond in the rough with Shavers. So we'll see how that goes. And then Joshua Palmer returned. Like I say, he's not necessarily the best, but he has some really crisp route running and he does have some good hands. And I want to just see us get back to utilizing our other running backs, whether it's them getting the ball handed off to or catching it in the backfield with Ray Davis and Ty Johnson as well too. So we're gonna see what's good with that. Looks like there's going to be a lot of pressure on Shedeur Sanders, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later moving forward. So I feel like this, obviously, with Dylan Gabriel, he was probably going to play the remainder of the season, but I feel like now with all this hoorah hoorah going on in the media, I feel like if Shedeur don't have a good game or they don't get a W, that's it for him. So we're gonna see what happens with that. And kind of like what you said with the Rams, I want to also give credit to Philadelphia as talented and skilled of players they have on the offensive side of the ball. Their defense has been looking elite. So I think the NFC not only runs through the Rams, but they also run through the Philadelphia Eagles. It may not be pretty all the time, but they just find ways to win. And their defense, like I said, has been looking good. And if your offense hasn't even caught up yet, imagine what it can look like. Because this was kind of like what their situation was last year. And then when they got to the playoffs, especially in the Super Bowl, that's when they kind of turned it around as well, too. Sam Darnold, man. Performance made me lose a little bit of stock in the Seahawks. I want to kind of take them serious, but kind of like the Daniel Jones situation. Obviously he doesn't have a top tier running back. He does have a nice defense, like you said, to turn the ball over 4 times and still have a chance to win. I think they'll be okay. But Sam Darnold's starting to give me flashbacks of last year, so I don't know if I'm still with that. Like you said, with the Ravens, they have somewhat of a favorable schedule moving forward, and I think the Steelers only one, maybe 2 games in front of them. And with that wrist injury with Aaron Rodgers, we're gonna see what happens. They say he may play, he may not play. So if he don't play, they definitely don't have a chance. And last but not least, I don't want to say it, but teams have been beating the Chiefs. Their division has gotten a little bit stronger. And with that being said, I think it's time we actually look at the numbers. And even though it's not pretty all the time, but with that defense and that Super Bowl level coach, I think we should take the Broncos as a legitimate threat. You know what I'm saying? And Mahomes will like he gonna have some things coming his way within his division for the next couple of years. So we'll see. Transitioning from that, man, who are your week 11 offensive and defensive players of the week?
So on offense, I had to go with your man's. He,
Ha, ha,
yeah, bro had 3 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns. Uh, Yeah, Josh Allen. It was, even though the first turnover was terrible. So like I'm watching this game, I'm like, oh no, it's gonna be one of those games like where he just threw the
ha.
ball away looking stupid. And but then he just, we were texting, I was like, this is the full Josh Allen experience, like last year is the reason he won MVP was because he cut down on a lot of that dumb stuff and he was just doing a lot of the great stuff. But like for most of his career, that's kind of what it's been of like him making a bunch of bonehead plays, but then he makes a bunch of crazy plays. So, um, and this one, of course, was way, way more on the positive side than the negative side, but you still got a experience of both. But yeah, he was my offensive player of the week. And then defensive player of the week, I went with Myles Garrett.
Mm.
And it's crazy. I saw something because the NFL awards offensive and defensive players of the week for each conference. And they basically only do it for teams that win. And so somebody was just complaining about Myles Garrett not getting it, and I completely agree. It's like, what what does my what does what my offense does or did or didn't do have to do with what my performance was? I had sacked Lamar Jackson 4 times, and he had 5 total tackles. 4 of them were sacks, and the other one was a tackle for loss. And that's not to mention just his overall impact on the game. So yeah, winning the game be damned. Like he's the only reason that was even a close game. And to be able to shut Lamar down like that, honestly, I've only seen the Chiefs do that the same way that it looked on Sunday. Um, so yeah, I have to give him props.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. My offensive player of the week, obviously, is going to be Josh Allen as well, too. 3 touchdowns through the air, 3 touchdowns through the ground, threw for 317 yards. Like you said, the full Josh Allen experience when he just does some nut shit. And then I think after the post game interview, basically he's saying it was it was a slide. It was like a protection issue in which why that he messed up on with his cadence. And that's why he threw both of those turnovers. So I'm like, all right, like you've been in the league for a minute, like come on, son. But hopefully that gets cleaned up. And with that being said, like even though that shit was a shootout and our defense was looking like Swiss cheese, especially in the run game, we had moments where we stepped up. So we're always gonna, not we're always, but this season we're definitely, if you combine the rush and pass, we're middle of the pack. But you gotta play clean if you want somewhat of a chance as well too. And another some more credit I want to give his way. I think he finally passed Cam Newton's for total rushing touchdowns, which is pretty cool. And he's the only player to have three rushing touchdowns and three passing touchdowns in the game. And this was his second time. And I went to the first game when they played the Rams, so that was cool to see. I was gonna go with Miles Garrett as well too, but kind of like what you said, I ended up going with a team that won as well too. And I think
Crazy.
just because of the win and the high stakes itself, I went with Cameron Kitchens for the safety for the Rams. And he stepped up with multiple impact plays. I feel like he intercepted Sam Darnold twice. This is arguably Sam Darnold's worst game of the season. And I think Pro Football Focus gave him a grade of a 93.5, which was the highest among all defensive players as well, too. So that was my offensive and defensive players for week 11. Transitioning over to our next topic, man. The Cleveland Browns quarterback, Shedeur Sanders, made his NFL regular season debut in the second half of a 23-16 loss against the Baltimore Ravens. And he entered the game after starting quarterback, obviously Dylan Gabriel was ruled out with concussion. He was 4 of 16, 47 yards, one pick, sacked twice. He had a potential to tie the game and threw a dot, but it was a combination of not having ball security, plus also a great defensive play. Obviously, he was rusty, a little unfamiliar due to not having any form of reps with the first team, and obviously we saw some offensive line struggles. But what would you take away from Shedeur Sanders getting tossed into the fire, and what are your hopes or what do you think is going to happen? This upcoming game against the Las Vegas Raiders.
I mean, I think one thing I will say is I've been hearing a lot of people make a big fuss about the fact that he didn't get any first team reps. And once it's one thing he probably should have got some in the offseason, but he's also the number three quarterback. So those are usually going to go to your one and two. Once the season starts, the third string quarterback is not going to get any reps with the first team. That's how every NFL team works. So it doesn't matter if you're Shedeur Sanders or not. Like you are third on the depth chart for quarterback. We're not, that's a waste of time. Why are we giving you first team reps when we need our starter to get those? The backup barely is getting first team reps. So I just think that's much to do about nothing. Like that's, one of those things I think other people are trying to, because it's Shedeur, trying to make up for how poorly he played. Like, you're a quarterback in the NFL. When you get your chance, you're supposed to shine. There's plenty of other backups. Brock Purdy wasn't getting a bunch of first team reps, and he came in and he took the job. That's just what it is. And Shedeur played terrible. Like 4 of 16, you can't. That's a bad NBA game. Okay, 4 of 16, let alone like you're supposed to be a quarterback. That's crazy to complete 25% of your passes. So, and the interception wasn't great. He just didn't look good. He looked like a fifth round pick. And that's not to say that he won't get better because also there's first round picks. Even Mahomes, sat out his entire first year. Like that is, and I've seen a lot of retired quarterbacks kind of clamoring for. They wish that more quarterbacks, young quarterbacks, weren't thrown into the fire and were given like that whole first year to just learn and be behind somebody. So I don't want to necessarily say like, it's over for his career. And of course, we'll see. Hopefully he plays a little bit better this next week out. But even if he doesn't, that's okay because he's a rookie quarterback. It's his first year, and this offense is. I mean, again, Joe Flacco right now, if he had been playing this entire season with the Bengals, he would be in the Pro Bowl. Like that. That's just point blank. Period. But when he was playing with these Browns, he looked like one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. Like there's no real offensive talent on that team. The protection's not great, so it's just not an ideal situation. But he's got to step up. That's really point blank period what it is. Like he has to have a better game because you're not. They didn't put you in just because Dylan Gabriel was struggling. They put you in because he couldn't play. So if you're gonna actually try and maintain a stranglehold on that position, you have to at least prove that you can. You can't even just play at the same level as him. You have to prove that you're better. Now, granted, the level that Dylan Gabriel was playing at was very low. So, you don't have a crazy bar to beat. But yeah, he just has to be better. And I will also say like even if he's not, I don't think that's some type of death knell for his career. I don't think that's some type of, indictment against him because again, he is a rookie.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. He definitely, like I said, looked a little bit rusty, as well too. But like you said, that's kind of expected. And I agree with you as well too, in the sense of like, if you're a third string, you're not going to get that much reps. But even when Flacco got traded, you would think he'd get some form of reps being the second string when he got allocated to that position as well too. But like I
That's
said,
not how it works.
because I heard that too, and then like you had other people like Cam Newton and other platforms or former players saying like the basically the percentage breakdown of reps between your first and second. So I mean that's up for another conversation as well too. But like you said, when the moment comes your way, you gotta kind of seize that opportunity. So it's a blessing in disguise. Hopefully Dylan Gabriel is comes back fully healthy and whatnot as well too. But we'll see what happens when he goes up against the Raiders. Now, like you said, they do have a lack of weapons from the skill standpoint offensively, and their offensive line isn't necessarily the best. So we'll see what kind of game plan Stevin Stefanski and their offensive coordinator is going to put together to see if they can minimize some risk. So I really don't know where my head is going towards when we have our predictions later, but 416 was kind of crazy. Let's at least, knowing he's a fifth round pick, let's at least get 50% completion percentage, you know what I'm saying? But we'll see what happens with that moving forward. Do you think it's something though where it's like they already have a good sample size with Dylan Gabriel? So even if Shedeur doesn't play to the level of what his fans or the media or whatever thinks he can play at, do you think it's a situation where Dylan comes back, or they're like, all right, we already got our sample size with you. Let's see what he can do because we most likely gonna have a top five pick.
Yeah, I mean that's what's tough is I think that they're probably going to take a quarterback if they're in a good position next year. Um, but I think that it's going to
That's
have, I
got, what,
think
like
it's
$40 million of dead money going towards Deshaun Watson that I forgot about too. That's nasty.
crazy. Yeah. I mean, they're completely at fault for being in the situation. They could still have Baker Mayfield right now. So, but
That just goes to show you how weird that franchise is with quarterbacks too. You know what I'm saying? Just like you said, Baker Mayfield situation, even Joe Flacco situation, like quarterbacks just go there to die and rot.
yeah, man, they're but the thing is, Baker wasn't even dying rotten. He just had one bad year because he was injured, and that's neither here nor there. I think that Shador has to play if they're going to decide, hey, we want to give you the rest of the string, the rest of the year. Um, he has to at least play like competent football. Like
Yeah.
416 is not like that's just not competent football. Like there's no reason for us to put you out there when at least Dylan Gabriel at least was like completing passes, like he was doing some basic stuff, but it was better than that. So I think that if he goes out there and stinks it up again and Dylan Gabriel gets healthy, there's no reason for us to let you play again, to be real. So I think it's one of those things that's like really all on him, but I hope that he is able to get some more reps because I don't know what the situation is going to be going into next year because they're more than likely going to have a high draft pick. And I don't know what these quarterbacks look like, honestly, coming out of this next draft, but if they're able to land one, which I know is their plan to at least try and grab one, I feel like that person is going to go straight to number one on the depth chart. Because they already know Dylan Gabriel is not it. And if Shador doesn't really show anything otherwise, he might end up traded or just still end up being the third string quarterback. So I think this is like really, really important for him.
Yeah. And I kind of just want to throw a little bit of shade as well too. He's going to have even more opportunity this week because you know what quarterback he's going against with
Gino?
Smith. So you better lock him, dude. You better lock it.
Yeah,
Um,
I am excited because this is the perfect, like, this is a bad team. You're playing a bad team. So like if you have another bad game, it's really one of those. This could be great for him, but if you have another really bad game, then it's like, oh, you couldn't even do nothing against one of the worst teams in the league. That's not going to look great. So he's in a prime position to shine, or at least look a lot better. So I hope that he can. And of course, yes, he will have the added advantage of having, extra practice reps and the game plan be centered around him. But I just don't want to give him that excuse because there's plenty of quarterbacks. Tom Brady is one of them, like where you get put in, you have to shine immediately. That's sports. Like there's plenty of people who like Rico Dowdle. If he hadn't did what he did in those two games, he would literally still be the backup. Like that's just how sports work. Like you might only get one opportunity and you have to be able to shine in that opportunity.
yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. So we're going to see the battle of the 2-8 teams this upcoming weekend. It's going to be interesting. Moving on to our next topic, Michael Penix, man.
Hmm.
Atlanta Falcons quarterback Michael Penix Jr. is out for the remainder of the 2025 season after suffering a partially torn ACL in his left knee during Week 11 loss to the Carolina Panthers. He was placed on IR and will undergo, like I said, that season-ending surgery. So apparently, the injury occurred in the same left knee he suffered a bone bruise early in the season that caused him to miss Week 8. So this was Penix, I believe, fifth season-ending injury since college, which is crazy. Uh, though his previous ACL tears had been his right knee. So he not only has a bad left knee, he got a bad right knee right now. But what are your thoughts on, Michael Penix injury and, the state of Atlanta Falcons?
I mean, I think it sucks. I feel bad for him. But I also like it really feels like the Falcons couldn't have botched that offseason any worse. Like you went out and signed the corpse of Kirk Cousins to insane deal. And then you spent the number 8 or number 6. It was a top 10 draft pick on Penix, a guy who was already old for a rookie quarterback. And he had multiple seasons, like his knees were torn up. You already knew his knees were torn up as a rookie. Um, so, a lot of this just feels like, again, the chicken coming to roost. Like this is you guys put yourself in these positions. I don't know what this necessarily means for his career, but I don't think it's going to be good if we're being honest. Like it's going to be we talk about this in the NFL I mean in the NBA all the time. It's like you're not going to get healthier as you get older. So to have we look at like, Joel Embiid, it's not surprising that he has all of these issues because he had these issues as a rookie. Um, so yeah, the earliest they said like the earliest he would come back is 9 months, but that's being conservative. So it's like he's probably not coming back until mid-season next year, if that. And luckily, like mobility isn't a huge part of his game. So that is like the one thing that he has going for him. But at the same time, you need to be able to move around a little bit. Um, so yeah, it'll be an interesting situation. I think it's bad for them though. The year also is already kind of bad. But I think it's just it's set back this year and then it's gonna set you back next year unless you're able to find a decent stopgap quarterback.
And just to add on top of that, before we switch over to our next topic, yeah, I just, like you said, it's one of those things where you just gotta wait to see how things pan out. Like you said, he's most likely gonna miss some of that start of the season. We don't know what's gonna happen with Kirk Cousins, with the contract situation, and I think they traded away their first round pick for next year, 2026. They gave it to the Rams, so they don't even have a first round pick next year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's gonna be interesting, man. That's gonna be really interesting. Moving on from that, you brought it up from the week 11 takeaways and foresight going into week 12, but Joe Burrow was listed as a full participant today in the practice, which was Wednesday. Obviously, he's going to be returning from his surgery to repair torn ligaments in his toe. But he was limited on all three injury reports last week. And like I said, he was a full participant this week. Most of the time, when you're a full participant in multiple days of practice going into the weekend, you most likely going to play. So I'm not sure, like you said, if he's going to wait until Thanksgiving night matchup against the Ravens as a potential return date or not. But with that being said, obviously, what's his name? Joe Flacco's been doing all he can. But do you think that the Bengals should even bring back Joe Burrow this season? Like, is it even worth it?
Um, I mean, if he wants to play, and I think at this point, it'd be one thing if he was still on IR, but at this point, it's like, he's already geared back up and everything. I think he's just going to want to get out there because they'll still probably have some type of shot. I think it'll be, very, very tough. I think they're going to be in a position where even if they win out, they're going to need some other dominoes to fall in order to get into the playoffs.
Mhm.
But as long as you have a chance in the NFL, they work really hard and you never know what the next year is going to bring because who knew this year was going to be this bad for them. Um, so I mean, I think it's definitely worth it. Um, but you also just have to like protect him at all costs, man. You
Hey,
really just
man.
hope that he has no other injuries, in which I don't even look at him as being really injury prone because he's getting beat up all the time. Like the offensive line is just not really that great. So it's like it makes sense that he would keep getting injured.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's crazy. Speaking of injury proneness, I believe two of his injuries as well too came before the season even started in practice. But outside of that, a lot of people have been talking crazy, saying like, "Yo, look at Joe Flacco with these weapons, and he's putting up God level numbers right now." So obviously, if he
I
do
said
start,
that last week.
yeah, and a lot of people have been saying that too. And obviously, with if he does play this week, potentially, we'll see. No Jamar Chase this week. Obviously, he still got T. Higgins and some other weapons, but it'll
I
be
don't know
nice.
why you spitting on people, bro. That it doesn't make any fucking sense. Like,
He
so
gonna say I didn't spit on him. We saw the video, brother. We saw the video. It's actually nasty. We'll see what he does without his number one. You know what I'm saying? That's gonna be interesting to say. But like you said, they 3-7 right now. So even if they went out 10-7, these other teams that are trying to make it in, the Chargers, the Ravens, the Bills, like the Jaguars, like it's gonna be tough. So I I mean, I guess I'd rather play this. I mean, either way, it's tough because you got the Patriots this week. The next week, you got a division opponent with the Ravens. So if you get to go ahead and play. And if y'all just look bad and he looks bad, you might as well not waste the season, knowing, like you said, like he may not be injury prone, but has a proven record because of that old line, because of the roster construction. You may want to consider sitting homeboy down. So the league is always better when we know we have our top prospects. So I definitely want him to play, but I understand if he don't play this week and go next week. So we'll see what happens with that. Top 12 QB list, Carl Conyers. Who you got from
I'm gonna
12?
let you hit this one first.
Oh, okay. So mine was a little crazy. There's one guy that got added there because of his play, and I took away another person. So I took away Justin Herbert and I flipped in number 12, I got Dak Prescott. Play well. It just goes to show you how shitty the Cowboys organization is, and they need to do something to kind of build there. So I was impressed with his performance. Granted, obviously he played and I mean they both teams suck, but I have him at 12. 11, I had Sam Darnold. I wanted to give him a little bit of grace, kind of like what we did with Daniel Jones. So he's stuck right there. And 10, I got Daniel Jones as well too. They had a bye. We'll see what happens this week. It's going to be a great matchup going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. So we'll see how he plays. And what's funny is I did a prize picks. I had him over point 0.5 for interceptions. So I'm hoping he throw a pick on some
Oh my
nasty.
gosh.
Number 9, I got Bo Nix. Steady. Number 8, I got Jared Goff. He went down a little bit from last week. 7, I got Jalen Hurts. Plays a clean game, doesn't do too much, just does what he's required to do, relying on that defense. 6, I got Baker Mayfield. 5, I got Lamar Jackson. 4, I got Drake May. 3, it's like you always got to put Patty low key top three, top four, and you know what I'm saying. Obviously, like every team has their own problems, their own red flags or roster constructions, but I don't put him on it too much. So I got to go to number three. Number two, obviously, he was a nut ass nigga, you know, with his two first turnovers, but you know, just breaking history, and it looks like it's do or die right now because they're chasing the New England Patriots. They got Josh Allen, and then number one, who's going to look like the MVP favorite unless things change otherwise. I got Matthew Stafford. So that was my top 12 QB list.
Okay. It's at least the we got some similarities for sure. For me, I got Hurts as 12, Baker at 11. Um,
Okay.
actually, I'm sorry. Hurts at 12, Darnold at 11, then Baker at 10,
Hmm.
then Dak, then Lamar,
Eight
then
Lamar. Okay.
Mahomes.
Seven's Mahomes?
Is
Wow. I
that's
think the seven.
no, so it's Hurts,
Yeah, so just name it. So say 12, 11, 10.
yeah, Hurts, Darnold, Baker, Dak, Lamar,
Eight,
Mahomes,
seven,
May,
six,
Allen,
five.
Stafford. How am I? What is happening? This should be.
Right now, dog. We got to.
Oh, I see where I fucked up. Yeah, I'm gonna just leave it at that. That's my list for this week. We because this is gonna be too much to go back through it. So that's what is that? My top nine. There we go.
We gonna edit that joint. Because I was like, in what universe is Carl Conyers giving Patrick Mahomes number seven? Ain't no goddamn way.
Yeah,
Uh,
I
but okay, that's
don't
your
believe it.
interesting top nine list. We'll go with that. But there's another field that you're even better at. You've been hot with week 12 fantasy waivers, man. Let the crowd know.
So unfortunately, actually, I last week I think I gave the Falcons defense, and who would have known that Bryce Young was going to throw for a franchise record amount of yardage against them. So in a lot of leagues, the Falcons end up getting like -1 point. So I'm very sorry to anybody who added them. We're gonna hope for a nice rebound this week. I do still think that they're going to be viable enough because they have another good matchup. I think it's the Saints. Um, but I know, yeah, they have a good matchup. So, but that's not my pick. This week
Okay.
I have the Jags and the Browns. The Jags are playing the Cardinals, which I don't fully trust Jacoby Brissett. I think that at least he's going to give up the ball a couple of times, which will be good for your points. And then the Browns are playing Vegas, and if they just demolish Lamar the way that they did, which they lost the game, but their defense still was one of the top defenses in terms of points this last week. So I definitely think that as we were talking about Geno, he's bound to give the ball up or at least take a couple of sacks. So I think they're good picks. Michael Wilson from the Cardinals. Jacoby Brissett set a record last week for the most completions in NFL history. A lot of that being because they had no run game and they were down for most of the game, so he was just he was letting that bitch fly. And with Marvin Harrison out, Michael Wilson was the main beneficiary. Not sure if Marvin Harrison is going to be playing this week, but even if not, if they're going to have to throw the ball as much as they did last week, then there's room for more than one wide receiver to shine. And then lastly is another well, it's not a lastly is Emmanuel Wilson for the Packers. It looks
Mm,
like Josh Jacobs might be missing this week.
mm.
So they're still he's still questionable right now, but he's trending towards not playing. So Emmanuel Wilson in he spent like half of the game, I think, is the main back after Josh Jacobs went out last week and he had 11 carries for 40 yards and a touchdown. So looks like, if he gets a full game, he at least will be an admirable stand-in.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that was week 12 of fantasy waivers. Definitely, I'm rocking with that Browns defense. So Like I said, Geno Smith, if there's any guy, if there's anybody to bet on, turn the ball over, especially this season, is him. So, like you said, if the granted you get up more for divisional games, but just knowing what they did to the Ravens, man, it's gonna be hell. So you might have Myles Garrett again for your player of the week next week. You know what I'm saying?
Honestly.
It's gonna be crazy. So week 12 predictions before we go over to the NBA, man. Another top tier defense, Thursday night football. The Texans are hosting the Bills. Who you got?
Bills.
I got the Bills. I think it's going to be a grind out game, but I feel like as great as the Texans defense is, I don't think their offense will have too much to. I don't think their offense will overcome it. So I'm going with the Buffalo Bills. Another hot game. Chiefs are hosting the Colts. Who you got?
Chiefs gonna have to beat them. If they don't win this one, it's really gonna be a wrap.
Yeah, I went with the Chiefs just because they're at home and kind of like what you just said. If the Colts were at home, I would go with them. But sometimes I don't like betting against teams that came off a bye. But like I said, they're on the road this time. So I'm gonna go with the Chiefs. I'm gonna go with the Chiefs. Bears are hosting the Steelers. It's still up in the air if obviously Aaron Rodgers is gonna play. Who you got?
Bears, I guess, unfortunately.
I feel like every time I bet their way, they be losing. I'm gonna go with the Bears too. I'm gonna go with the Bears too. Bengals hosting the Patriots. Who you got? Of
Patriots.
course, of course. Ravens hosting Jets. Ravens.
Yeah,
Titans are hosting the Seahawks. Seahawks.
yeah.
Um, Packers hosting the Vikings divisional game. Who you got?
Packers, JJ. I saw somebody call JJ McCarthy JJ McShitty today, and I have not been the same since. So, yeah, even which is crazy because they beat us, but it's still, I'm not gonna go with the Vikings in this one for sure.
Same. Your Lions are hosting the Giants.
It better be the Lions.
They better get that done. Cardinals hosting Jaguars. I'm assuming we think you're going with the Jaguars because you picked their defense.
Yep.
Mhm. Raiders hosting the Browns. Battle of the Ass, 2-8. Who you got?
For Shedeur's sake, I'm gonna go with the Browns.
I said the same thing. And Raiders don't really got fans like that in Vegas. So I feel like it's gonna be like a 60-40 crowd. Saints hosting the Falcons. Who you got? It's another shitty game.
I know, but I'm gonna go with the Falcons on this one.
Give me to a Kurt. Oh, Cowboys hosting Eagles.
Eagles.
I'm gonna go with the Eagles too. Their defense has been elite, but these divisional games be so tricky. I know it's in Jerry World, but I don't think they have enough. Another hot game. Obviously, the Bucks are a little banged up, but the Rams are hosting the Bucks. Who you got?
Rams. It
I got the
sucks because
Rams.
I want the Bucks to win, but
I like the Rams. I like what I'm seeing from the Rams, bro. I'm fucking with the Bucks this year, and that's my team low key. Like if they're all fully healthy, at least between now, because they gonna make the playoffs, you know what I'm saying, especially in their division. But if they're
yeah.
healthy by the end of the season going into the playoffs, that's my dark horse to run the table. But I think the Rams got this one. And then last game, another hot one, low key. Brock Purdy just came back. Like you said, Panthers quarterback set some records. So who you got? The 49ers hosting the Panthers on Monday Night Football.
Niners.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Niners too. I'm gonna go with the Niners too. So that
Mm.
was the week 12 predictions. Hopefully we damn near right perfect this time around. Moving on to the NBA. Any big takeaways, man?
The big two things for me is just like the Pistons still on top of the East on an 11 game winning streak. A couple like most of this winning streak we haven't had. Actually, I don't think for any single game in this winning streak we've had like our entire starting lineup. And then we just got Cade back last game. Before that, he was out for like 3 or 4 games.
Right.
And also a bunch of other starters were out. The starting lineup that we had was unrecognizable and we were still winning games. So the depth is looking really nice. This guy, Dennis Jenkins, is coming out of nowhere looking really good. on a two-way contract doing niggas up. So yeah, I'm really excited. It's been a long time since both the Pistons and the Lions, even though the Lions have, not been amazing this year, it's been a long time since we've had both of those teams be good. And then the other thing is really just like the bottom is bottoming right now in the NBA. Brooklyn is 2-12, Washington is 1-12, India, at least earlier in the day. There have been some games tonight, so I haven't been able to check on that. But as of earlier today, Indiana's 1-12, New Orleans 1-12. Uh,
Pacers won
I'm
tonight.
sorry, no, New Orleans 2-12, Sacramento's 3-11. Like the bad teams are really, really bad this year. Um, so it'll be interesting to see how, this lottery ends up shaking out. But another team that's on that cusp is the Clippers. And everybody's been talking about that because OKC has their pick. So if the Clippers end up being really terrible this year too, exactly, then the OKC is about to get, and this is a really good draft class too. So yeah,
Yo, I forgot, dog. That's crazy. It might fuck around and have a top five pick, dog.
yeah.
Oh my God. Damn. No, I have to agree with you, man. Like I said, like obviously with Detroit, it's a smaller market team. So I'm very proud and happy for you and happy for the city to see everything that's kind of has transpired lately as well too. I ain't know Durant could move. What's his name? Jalen Durant. I ain't know that motherfucker could move like that.
I didn't, he's been cool, the past couple of years since we drafted him, but I didn't expect this. I did not
It's
expect
like
this.
his like Mobley or like Bam leap. You know what I'm saying? So
Mobley never made that's just something I want to, because there's been a lot of like people rehashing Cade's draft class and saying, that if they did a redraft, Mobley would have went number one instead of Cade. First of all, no, absolutely not. Mobley is not he is a great, great piece when you have other great pieces around him. He is not the cornerstone of a franchise, in my opinion. But then also on top of that, to me, he hasn't made any like, he went from like 15 points a game to like 18 or 19 points a game. Like there hasn't been, and I know like, there's more than just the stats, but to me, he's been just this a very similar player since like year two or three. Now that's a really good player, but I just really feel like I haven't seen any giant leap from Evan Mobley. Like he's just kind of been Evan Mobley these past couple of years.
yeah, I mean that's also true. That's definitely true. Obviously, when he was there, it was just kind of him and Garland, and then you got another player in the mix, new coach in the mix. So their style has definitely been a little bit different with the added depth as well too. It does seem like he's kind of been at that consistent, at least from a number standpoint, the past 2 years or so. But I think he did take a decent leap, like I said, from his first year moving on up as well too. And like you said, everything the way in which he plays, like the things that don't show up in a box sheet, those are things that kind of go unnoticed. But right now, I mean, the way Durant's playing right now, dog, we might have some conversations with who's that guy, with players that basically essentially play his position, like I said, with the Bam Adebayos of the world and with Evan Mobley. So y'all looking good. I'm kind of tweaking. The way the East is messed up right now, dog, and how I was texting you the other day or tagged you on Instagram, I was like, bro, with that Devin Booker joint, if you ain't happy there. Y'all could be in win now mode, you know what I'm saying? So why not go ahead and swing for the home run and try to get Devin Booker? That'll be tough, dog.
But
Shoot.
the Suns are winning right now. They have a decent record, so I don't think they're gonna get rid of him.
Yeah, they winning right now, but I feel like I feel like they're gonna eventually peak. So we'll see. But man, because that was basically like the complimentary piece that I wanted. Obviously, Bradley Beal's not good anymore, but his style of play, being a three-level scorer, is what I always wanted or envisioned, especially like seeing you guys take over last year. What I wanted, beside Kate Cunningham. Obviously, you guys are about to get Jaden Ivey back, so we'll see how that works. Because they did actually look pretty good together on the floor before he got hurt last year. So I'm curious to see how he gets integrated in the system and if that kind of takes away. But shoot, man, y'all been winning without him. Y'all been making all the right moves. So if y'all want to make a little splash, man, go ahead and do that. You know what I'm saying? I'll fuck with it. Besides from that, Rockets are taking off, winning the last 10 of their 11 games. So that's pretty cool. Seems like KD is the ultimate plug and play player. Ime Udoka, definitely has some tricks up his sleeve, and Reece Shepard's actually looking like an NBA player now, so that's been pretty good. It looks like it's a colli I know it's early, but we're gonna talk about LeBron later and these other teams, but it just looks like depending on health, obviously being number one and seeding, it just seems like it's a collision course set for Denver OKC rematch obviously last year's the second round, but I feel like it's a collision course set for them going to the Western Conference Finals. Like I think you have that tier one with those two, and then the other teams are still trying to play catch up or don't have the pieces that they need. But I think those two teams in the Western Conference and even the way the Eastern Conference is built like it's gonna go through those two teams. And last but not least, I'm pretty upset with, the amount of injuries that are kind of have transpired and that are ongoing from last season. Like I looked at a post today from ESPN and NBA on ESPN. Like, take a look at all these players that are either nursing an injury from last season or banged up right now. Kyrie ACL, Anthony Davis calf, Giannis groin, Jalen Brunson ankle, Wemby, which we're about to talk about right after this, calf. And then you also got what's his name, Stephon Castle, a strain as well too. Joel Embiid knee, Jason Tatum Achilles, Ja Morant calf, Jalen Williams wrist, Kawhi Leonard ankle, Damian Lillard Achilles, Trae Young knee, Paolo groin, Tyrese Achilles, Bam toe, Drew Holiday calf, Demonis Sabonis knee, Dejounte Murray's Achilles, Tyler Hero ankle. Zion just came back today, but hamstring. Like I don't know what's going on. I feel like I ain't really see these much injuries like in the modern era that like I saw growing up and even just a couple of years ago. Like, is it just the amount of practice? Is motherfuckers tissue just weak now? Like, what do you think it is?
I mean, it's definitely not the practice. Are you talking about like that they need to practice more?
No, like what do you attribute to these like
I would say it's
injuries?
definitely not they don't practice nearly as much as they used to. So it's definitely not something like that. But I think what I've been seeing from a lot of people is just, the pace of this game is the fastest it's ever been. You got people running up and down the court all the time, and also just like the moves that people are doing are very herky jerky. And a lot of these things are even more strenuous on people in bigger bodies. So you have Wemby, like it's cool seeing him play like a guard. But by doing that, he's putting a lot more stress on his body and a lot of these other guys as well. Paolo also is trying to do a lot of guard stuff. Positions used to be very well defined. Now we're in a position this era, so everyone wants to do everything. And I just don't know if the human body is internally at that point. Clearly, like we're at a point where people are able to do those things, but are you able to do those things for a long period of time? And it's a lot of these like soft tissue injuries, like the ACLs aside, all these other smaller injuries have just seemed a lot more prevalent, and the pace only continues to go up. It really feels like. So, I think it could be a lot of those things, but we'll see if it's, because again, I think this year has kind of been the worst. So we'll see if this is like a trend or if maybe it's just ended up being this year or something like that. But it does, it's crazy because it's like it sucks, but also it's like it's still been a lot of really fun and entertaining games. And it also shows how the league is in a really good place, that there's still a lot of like young, exciting players. Even the fact that like LeBron, and his was definitely some old people shit. It was like sciatica or something. Uh, but even with him just making his debut last night, it's like I honestly I didn't feel the void. Like it was enough Jokic, Luka, it was enough other people, and that's just two, but it was enough other people playing that are really good that I wasn't sitting there like, damn, I'm missing Brown playing right now.
Yeah, credit to the talent pool in the NBA is definitely at its height. So I agree with you on that. Kind of expanding upon Wemby and Stephon Castle, aka the new nickname Area 51, which I love by the way they gave last year. Wemby's currently sidelined with the left calf strain, expected to miss several weeks. And I think, like I said, Stephon Castle's out at least up to 2 weeks with left hip. flexor strained as well too. So they're still on a two-game win streak without those guys. De'Aaron Fox looks like he's been playing all right, and players like Keldon Johnson's been stepping up. But it's crazy how their last three first round lottery picks all are hurt right now. Spurs obviously, like we said, one of those exciting teams. In addition to the Detroit Pistons, they're 10-4 right now, fifth in the East. Do you think they can stay afloat? And what are your thoughts on the injuries in general?
I mean, they're in the West, so it is going to be tough. The East is I saw something where people were kind of like, attacking the Pistons win streak. Um, which of course, that's just what haters gonna do. But it's like you got to play a schedule that's in front of you, and the East is just kind of weak right now. It's not their fault that some of these teams suck. But the West, I feel like is a little bit different. I feel like those top eight teams in the West right now are pretty strong. So, they at least have Fox, which is a really good stabilizer, and they have a lot of their other rotation pieces. It's kind of just like the two guards and Castle and Harper and Wemby.
Mhm.
So I think they might be able to win a couple of games, but this is probably going to be a season defining stretch. I feel like because this could
Mhm.
really set them back if they let it. And I also don't like the idea of Wemby having to do a bunch of extra lifting to try and get them out of some hole. Especially just because at this point he hasn't shown the durability. He's still too young for me to, like last year was a blood clot, so I'm not going to say that he's injury prone, but I just don't want to be putting a whole lot of pressure on him right now as he's still trying to, just it still feels like when I say find his footing in the league, I mean just in terms of like consistency. Of course, he's already one of the premier players, but um, yeah, so I think that they can at least be a near 500 team, which with the start that they've been off to should be good enough.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. They got somewhat of a wiggle room to an extent, at least with the top eight seeds right now. Like I said, they're at number five. And like you kind of called out when we talked about our takeaways from the Western Conference and Eastern Conference, there's a lot of teams who are shitty already early. So I feel like from what I've even seen the last two games, like even without their two best other two top players, two-way players as well too, it seems like they still have somewhat of an identity. So just take care of the games you should take care of and beat up on these teams. And it's 50-50 with these other teams as well, too. I think they do have a tough schedule coming up. I think they play like OKC twice and like another playoff team. So that would be an interesting matchup as well, too. But um, yeah, it's just tough, man. And what I really wanted to talk about and steer in this direction is like, it obviously like he's your top asset, right? Like that is your top asset move for both of those guys. I mean, and Dylan Harper, there's a reason why they were in the lottery and they were so high, drafted wise as well too. But it's just like, damn, yo, like obviously with the calf, like that's something serious, and the calf, as we know, leads to an Achilles. So you want to be patient with that. But it's just making me think, even when you said like with the blood clot, and me was texting like this could be another year. If he misses a couple more or X amount of games, he may not get Defensive Player of the Year again, and he may not get all NBA selection. So I want to ask you, like, you think they should like go away from the amount of games played or reduction of games? Like, what do you think they should do?
I think they should. I think, everyone always approaches the 82 game schedule, and I think that is just really tough. I don't think that the league wants to do that, especially just with the historical precedent as well. It's going to become even harder to compare stats across eras and total points and total all that type of stuff. Um, and also just from a money standpoint, like, the less games is less money for them. So I don't think that that's going to be where it is, but I think that lowering that threshold from 65, even just to 60, I think would be nice, giving a little bit more cushion to some of the players. Because I do get them putting a threshold in because, what was it? Embiid only played like 50 something games or whatever and was winning awards and stuff like that. And it's like, availability should matter. Um, Especially for the players who are like, if I'm out here playing 82 games and playing excellent night in and night out, that should matter. So I think that the best thing would probably be just to kind of like lower that with the expectation of like players are going to be missing more games. But yeah, it's a tough situation because this just happened. So we in terms of this limit, so we've never seen players who of his ilk be denied certain awards. And of course, the All-Star is, something they can't put any type of limit on because it's a mid-season thing. So I think he's gonna have hella All-Stars regardless of if he's injured or not. But yeah, it'll be weird. Say he misses out on the threshold this year and some reason misses out on the threshold next year, having a guy who everyone has is the consensus best defender and a top five player, and he has no awards to show for it. But also, something that I saw someone bring up is that actually could end up being a blessing in disguise for the Spurs because a lot of the contract extensions prevalent in the league right now are based on the awards. Yeah, so like you're only eligible for a supermax if you have a certain amount of awards and stuff like that. So it's not even like they literally would be limited on how much money they could give him. Um, so that might end up being something where it's like, okay, like now we're able to do this and that because we gave you the most money we could. We couldn't give you any more because you weren't able to get some of these awards. So just something where it could be spun in a positive way.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm thinking of awards right now, and obviously we're about to talk about Braun soon, but he missed 14 games already. He just came back. So I think what is 65 games? So
Yeah,
right
he
now
has a
he'll be
very
eligible to play
small,
like 67 more games. So
yeah.
he can only miss like three more games to be considered all NBA, which is crazy.
And
But
I don't think he's worried about it. I don't think he's going to be eligible for any of the teams this year. Honestly, I highly doubt that the plan is to have him play every single game the rest of the year.
mhm. Nah, that's real. That's real. Another injury that we kind of witnessed as well too is John Morant. So he's out for at least 2 weeks with grade one right calf strain. And I think he sustained that against the Cleveland Cavaliers. But like I said, I'm starting to believe more and more in injury proneness, man. He's had so many injuries from a labral tear in his shoulder, to lingering AC joint sprain to knee issues. I think it's just like how he plays in particular that kind of keeps him in harm's way. And he hasn't even been looking efficient. It looks like he's kind of checked out as well, too. You think this is the last of Ja Morant with Memphis, or he gonna come back from his injury and no trade?
I hope it's the last. I'll say that. I don't know if it's officially going to be because there hasn't to their credit, I haven't feel like I've been seeing a bunch of leaks from their camp or anything like that to signal otherwise. But it just feels like from the outside looking in that it's kind of time for a reset. I think Ja probably would be happier if he was on another team, and I think that it'll probably lift a cloud from over this team as well. And they're not good this year anyway, so you traded Desmond Bane, you got a bunch of picks back for him. So if you can even just get a couple back for Ja you're in a good position to rebuild. Triple J is still young enough that he can withstand like a 2 or 3 year rebuild, while you add more talent around him. And they have some other good young pieces. Jalen Wells, their rookie this year, Cedric Coward. So I don't think trading him would be the worst thing. I honestly think it might be the best thing.
Is there a dream situation, or do you think there's a perfect fit in which he would thrive in? Because obviously, it's not only a positionless league, but we're in an era with, top fucking tier point guards. Where would you like to see him go? Where do you think he's going to be a good fit at?
That's a great question. I'm honestly, earlier in the year, I would have said the Clippers might have been a decent option, but I don't think so now when they're also losing and um, I don't think they want to give up any more capital. And then also potentially, the Rockets, but it's like because Van Fleet is out, but they're kind of rolling right now, and I don't know if that's a distraction that they want to bring in. So I'm honestly not sure. I feel like there's definitely a team out there who really needs a point guard.
Minnesota.
Honestly, Minnesota. I don't necessarily like him and Ant together. I don't. I don't know if that would be a great fit, but I do think that, and I don't know if they have the assets, but I think the Bucks would be nice because Ryan Rollins is cool, but he's not. on Ja's level, even if Ja's having a down year. So I think that that could be potentially nice because you tried getting Giannis a nice point guard, but Dame was also old as shit when they traded for him. So this would be kind of, getting a young guy in there and seeing if they could mesh and if he could kind of rebuild himself. And
Mm,
Milwaukee is not, known for having a crazy nightlife or anything like that. So maybe it might be a little bit easier for him to be in check.
interesting. Okay, okay. I think the Minnesota situation could kind of work. Like, I would just want to see who they'd have to give up. Because obviously you're paying Julius Randle, you're paying Ant-Man, and you're also paying Rudy Gobert, which as much as we should on Rudy Gobert, he just works for that team in general. But the biggest thing with Anthony Edwards, especially being in the playoffs, is he's been the only playmaker whenever he comes out of the game. I mean, obviously back in the day you had Nikhil Alexander Walker and Mike Conley's aging, but they never really had that guy to kind of control the place and get everyone else set up as well too, and just be another threat scoring wise. Obviously, Ja hasn't been as efficient as he'd like to be, but I think half of that is to obviously blame on him, but other half is I just think he's not having fun and he's just not playing like how he wanted to. Kind of like how we saw Jimmy Butler towards the end before he got traded to the Golden State Warriors. So I think they'll be good, and I think they're such a great defensive team that they can come up with a game plan to hide them. But that backcourt will be good because Ant-Man, ever since that motherfucker hung out with Steph Curry, he loves to shoot the ball in all levels of shooting the ball. So I think that could potentially work. Um, LeBron James just came back. He came back against the Utah Jazz. They won 140 to 126. Like I said earlier, he missed the first 14 games due to what you call this? How you pronounce it?
Sciatica.
Sciatica, which is like nerve damage to your lower back, but apparently he's good. Um, Historic season, obviously, by taking the court the other day, LeBron James became the first player in NBA history to play in 23 seasons. Obviously, he was on a minute restrictions, 30 minutes, recorded 11 points, 12 assists, and 3 rebounds. And there was another milestone during the game. He passed Reggie Miller to move into sixth place on the NBA's all-time list for made three-pointers. And obviously, with the Lakers, Luka, Austin Reeves, um, they've been playing great. We're 10-4, obviously, with LeBron coming back, add another W, so they're 11-4 now. I think they're currently third behind Denver Nuggets and also the OKC Thunder. But what were your thoughts with LeBron James coming back, man?
Unfortunately, I didn't actually get to watch the game, but I did check out, a lot of the stats and stuff afterwards. But I mean, it's cool to have LeBron back. I said earlier that I didn't necessarily miss him, but that's also not to say that like I don't appreciate when he plays, and he's still really one of the most fun players to watch play. So. It's also funny, he's always going to get that 10. He finished with 11 points. Like he's always making sure to get that 10 points. Um, but I think that, of course, this is his first game back this is the most time he's ever missed to start a year. So he's going to be easing himself back into it. But I think that the role that he played would really be perfect for this team. We all know LeBron is probably one of the best. Now with Jokic, it's up for debate, but he's one of the best passers in the league. Um, so being able to and again, as we were talking about, I don't think by the time the year is over, he's going to be eligible for any of these end of year awards. He's already, in all the all-time record books for points and all that other type of stuff. So I think that he's going to be able to take this year where it's just like, okay, I can focus on other stuff. Where it's maybe he leads the league in assists again, or at least is in the top in terms of assists and probably is unfortunately at his age, he's still probably one of the best defenders on that team. So okay, I can focus more on defense and focus more on playmaking and still of course score when I need to. But I have two guys that can average 30 basically on my team. So that's also the first time he's probably had that outside of like Miami really. And honestly, I don't know if Bosh could average 30. So yeah, it's I think that he's in a good position to at least ease himself back into it. And hopefully he takes on I think kind of a little more of a tertiary role, at least in terms of scoring. I think that would be really good for this team to just not mess up what they've kind of already established.
Yeah, and like you said, there's no reason for him to even try to not ease his way into it. Granted, his mileage and his age as well too. And when you got to start on Luka Doncic, and like you said, Austin Reeves has been playing great. Granted, Austin Reeves only shot about 11 shots yesterday. I mean, he really wasn't needed because the team was just playing great as a collective. I see him this year, like you said, knowing that he missed those 14 games, knowing that there's a huge chance that he's probably not going to play back-to-backs anymore. He's not going to meet that criteria for all NBA. So why not let us see his role in which he had last year in the Olympics, right? You know what I'm saying? Where he's more of just that point guard, and when it's called upon, he and the other players them got it going with the Austin Reeves and with the Luka Doncic, then I can turn that switch on. But right now, I like the playmaking aspect. Like you said, he can do other things to affect the game. He's proven he can do other things to affect the game. He's the ultimate Swiss Army knife in the history of the NBA. So I think it's going to suit well for them. And it looks like DeAndre Ayton is going to, and what's the backup big? Jackson Hayes are both going to thrive even more as well too, especially with LeBron not even really looking to score. I know it's just one game, but it was looking crazy. Like you kind of he's so dominant in every aspect. Sometimes I always forget like he's low key a point guard. So to see him kind of just be so even more unselfish than he normally is. I mean, he's probably the most unselfish superstar, but to kind of see that yesterday, I was just like, wow, like it's really we really been taking it for granted, but also too, like you're getting another all NBA player back. So we'll see how the season pans out. We'll see how far they can kind of go. They better hope though, kind of like last year. Granted, they got smacked up by the Minnesota Timberwolves, but they better hope that the Nuggets and Lakers, I mean Nuggets and OKC beat each other's ass in the 7 game series and they avoid that. So that's
Yeah.
see what happens. But credit to LeBron James, man. I thought he was gonna be done this year, but apparently not. You know what I'm saying? Um, Cade, man, Detroit Pistons star Cade Cunningham signed a new 6 year endorsement deal with Nike that will include his own signature shoe, and he joins an exclusive list as the sixth active NBA player to have a signature shoe deal with Nike. So it's LeBron, it's KD, it's Ja, it's Giannis, it's D-Book. Those are the active Nike players as well too, and obviously it has a lot to do with his performance. So. The deal is a testament, like I said, to what Cade's been doing these past couple of years, especially these last two seasons on top of this season. So a lot of just growth with him. I think last year was first All-Star, first All NBA selection. So I'm happy. I'm happy with that situation. I'm curious to see what the shoe looks like, but just a lot of flowers, I guess, being tossed today to the Detroit Pistons. What are your thoughts on this signature shoe deal? I didn't. I like him. He's great, but I never pictured him getting his own shoe deal. But it's crazy. What are your thoughts, man?
I mean, it's dope, of course, coming from a Pistons fan, but also something that someone made apparent to me the other day is like Cade is really holding it down for America right now. If you look at the MVP conversations, is what Jokic, Luka, Giannis, Shea,
You know,
all foreign players. Like Cade is right now the only American player who's really in that conversation.
right.
So just in that regard, like I think that they need him to be big because we need somebody in who's actually fucking American to like be really good at the sport right now. Outside of a 40-some-year-old LeBron and the 30, Steph and all those other guys, like they're on the way out. We need like young players to be able to do that. So yeah, no, it's really dope. It's exciting and hope that it's kind of the thing that helps establish him for other people as well. Like of course, hoop heads and all the Pistons fans know who he is, but I think that this is really part of his coming out party.
No, that's real. That's real. Then my last question I want to ask you: will you be copying his signature sneakers if it's a reasonable price?
No. I don't buy any of these nigga shoes. But I support bro, but I don't have no Kobe's, I don't have no LeBrons, I don't have none of those. So I have some Jordans, but that's different. That's completely different. So
No, that's fact. Everybody gotta get some J's every now and then, you know what I'm saying? Aside from that, any closing remarks for episode 164?
Uh, just the NFL is starting to come to that second half of the season, so it'll be interesting to see how things start to ramp up there, and uh, the NBA is starting to get into the getting close to getting to the thick of their season as well. So it's definitely a fun time right now. A great time to be a sports fan.
I just hit that over 31 and a half. A shade finished with 33, so I'm feeling good with this prize.
Hey, yep.
So we'll see. We'll see. I'll let you know my other picks, but it's a little wild. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that was episode 164 of the Season Show. Make sure to subscribe on all forms of social media at the Season Show, at Carl Conyers, at Search Season.